Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the garage. As promised, I'm gonna do a header installation video today. There was a little interest. I think a young man had commented that he wanted to see a TTI header installation because he said he did not like his hooker headers. So I can understand that because I've had hooker headers in the past. I've put hooker headers on different cars that weren't even my cars, Headman, Flowtech, whatever. They're pretty much all the exact same design, and they don't fit real good. They hang real low. They scrape if you go over a bump or whatever, smashes the tubes down, and it's just an ancient design. Those headers have been the same probably since the 70s or something. So and unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of TTI headers. You probably have them on your car, or you know somebody that has them on their Mopar, because that's all they make them for, is Mopar products. So they pretty much have their stuff sorted out. They've been around for a while. So I'm going to take a look at these headers here before we put them on. Obviously, the passenger side doesn't really look a whole lot different than, say, like a hooker or a Headman, other than if you notice, they're a step design. They go from 1 5/8 to 1 3/4, and unlike the cheapo headers, they have like 3/8 flanges, not them little 5/16 or whatever that they run on the cheap ones. Now the driver's side is where they look a lot different than a hooker header. It's a slip tube for number 7. That's so you can put it around the torsion bar. These headers actually go up over the suspension, over top of the drag link, rather than underneath the drag link on the driver's side, so they do not hang down. Another nice thing is that you can get to all the spark plugs easily, because when this tube is on, there's nothing in the way. The hookers and Headmans and Flowtechs, you can barely get a socket and extension down in there to get to your spark plugs, and then your spark plug wire boots are melting if you have straight boots, practically. So the only thing to do to prepare the car, they tell you, is get it jacked up securely, safely on jack stands. You do want to have it nice and high. Obviously remove your old exhaust, remove the oil filter, and it will fit with the straight oil filter or a 90-degree. Remove the starter, which obviously the starter's off this because I'm just putting the engine back in and the trans back in. So I'm going to go underneath here and show you what you need to do with the suspension. All right, I did also want to mention, they tell you to remove the stud for the starter. You're going to use 2 bolts rather than a stud and nut and a bolt. So I got this stuff already loosened up. The nut for the inner tie rod, swing that out of the way. The drag link will have to come out as well, or just at least swivel out of the way. I'm going to remove this idler arm. Might be easier said than done, but I did it once already. Obviously, as you saw, those headers were not new. Had them since 2007. So still look pretty good for being, what, 16 years old. They were the chrome ones. At the time, as far as for finances, the chrome was more affordable than the ceramic coated. Okay, so that's out of the way. I'm sure this has to, whatever. I don't know if that's gonna have to pivot, but all right, well, we're gonna grab the header and try to stick it up in there. See how that goes. All right, before we try to put that header up in, you remove the driver's side motor mount nut, the one that secures the mount to the K member, and you want to jack the driver's side of the engine up off of the K member. Hopefully that should be enough. We'll see. Without scraping all the paint off your freshly painted engine. Probably wouldn't hurt to have a second person here, but I don't, so I have one stud installed up there, so I can just hang it like that. Okay, it's on the stud. Hopefully you can see that. And then I'll just go up and stick a bolt in there. Okay, slight change of plan. Header's just kind of hanging out there. I'm gonna stick this slip tube up in now first, because it didn't really want to line up with the header actually on the head. It does say before you bolt the header on, you want to put this slip tube on. Get that installed. And it also says lightly grease it. I won't do that, but flipping it goes in there. Might need a little persuasion. This isn't brand new anymore. It's got a little rust on it. So I think you need to see me struggle with this. Once I get it on, we'll go to the next step. All right, slip tube is fully installed. Put a stud in the front and the rear. That's just temporary, just to hold it up. There we go. Now I'm going to lower the engine back down. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, you want to take all your spark plugs out. Obviously, you're going to bust one of them things off if you leave them in. You have to forgive me. This is like my first installation video, so I'm kind of learning as I go. Just when you do the bolts, make sure you put thread tape or thread sealant on there so you don't have a coolant leak, because they do go into water jackets. So all right, I'm going to get this side bolted on and we'll go to the other side. One thing I wanted to show you before we go to the other side, if you're used to the hooker headers and the Flowtech headers and everything else, check this out. Okay, so every one of these bolts can be gotten to with a box end. I know on the hookers and the headmans and all that, that is not possible. You definitely have to use an open end on some of those bolts, and both sides are the same way. This allows you to get a lot better torque on every one of these bolts. And with those 3/8 flanges, I've never had a header gasket leak, and pretty much almost every time I had hooker headers or headman headers, they always leaked up there, whether the flange was warped or whatever, or you just couldn't get enough torque on it. Every one leaked. Maybe that was just my luck. Maybe other people have better luck, but this, you can get whatever. You do have to use the box end wrench on two of them, but you can literally use a ratchet and a socket on all but two on this side. So go to the passenger side now. All right, we're under here with the passenger header. Let's see how she goes up in. This is pretty much unscripted here. I don't know if this is gonna fit, but it's supposed to. Right? I do have 2 studs installed up there. They're temporary. Looks like it's gonna clear everything. Maybe. Might have to go up a little bit. No, that was enough. Thought I'd have to take the engine up a little more, but just made it. My light's in the way now. The engine actually needs to come down to get it on the rear stud. I can get it on the front one, I think. Nice. If I had a second person, there it goes. Gonna leave this engine down a little bit. All right, slipped right in. It's that easy. All right, we'll go up and bolt it down. All right, so this is what she looks like up here. Just the same as this driver's side. All these bolts can be gotten to with a box end or a socket. So you get nice torque on there. No gasket leaks there. At least I've never had any. I'm gonna take a look at it from underneath. They have a little bit different design than hookers and headmans, whereas they actually point right towards the humps there in that torsion bar cross member. So whether you're just running collector extensions for at the drag strip, or if you're gonna make your own exhaust, it's super easy. So you don't have to have any S-bends right there. I made my own exhaust. This is what I've been running. Pretty simple. It's like a 3-inch. Did have to clearance it a little bit there so I could tuck it up against the bottom of the car. And you know, just a simple Summit H-pipe kit with just some straight pieces of 3-inch pipe and some flanges from, you know, the cheapo headers from their collectors. The rings that just come off, or not the collectors, but the reducers. Speaking of reducers, these are the kind that you get with the TTI headers. Actually, like a much better quality reducer. If you're gonna run a 2.5-inch exhaust, 3/8 flanges, tapered, extra long, really nice pieces. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up because it's been a really long one. Wasn't any real way to cut it any shorter, but a few things wanted to mention. They do send you a really nice instruction booklet. Tells you basically everything I said and maybe a little more. And then it mentioned at the beginning, you want to drain your coolant, obviously, because you take them header bolts out and coolant's just going to pour out the heads. Also, for replacement gaskets. The gaskets that I've been using that I found that are almost identical to the TTI headers that come with the kit are these Mr. Gasket Ultra Seals. There's the part number 5935. They look almost identical except the TTI say TTI, these say Mr. Gasket. So, and then of course, prices. Today's price on just the raw uncoated header is $780, chrome are $924, and the ceramics go up from there. Obviously, you can get hookers, Headman, Summit brand, Flowtech, whatever, a lot cheaper than that, but in the long run, these things are so much better and so much less of a hassle, so much less of a headache. You're not fighting leaks, you're not scraping the bottom. I mean, look at the clearance here. I mean, those things nowhere near hang down like a hooker header would. So I highly recommend them. Even if you have hooker headers now, take them off, scrap them, whatever, sell them on Facebook Marketplace, put on a set of TTIs. I know they're expensive, but you're gonna really be happy with them. So I appreciate you watching. Hopefully this helps somebody. If I left something out, you got a question, whatever, just leave it in the comments section. So, all right, I'll catch you next time.